Well, welcome back to the show. My next guests are two young men who decided to do some missionary work in Kenya, and we're going to talk to them now. Matthew Ryding and Matthew Kerridge, you're very welcome. Matthew, do you want to start and tell me, firstly, who was the mission that you did the work with?
The mission is called IcFEM, which is based in Kenya, in Western Kenya. It's an indigenous organisation run by about 130 staff, of which are about four staff from England.
Okay, and how did you get involved in the first place?
When I was in sixth form, my law teacher was asking us what we'd like to do after college, and previously I'd been watching a programme on gap years in Asia and Africa, and I said that I'd like to do something on the same lines as that.
Okay, so obviously initially you went out as a volunteer then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went out as a volunteer. They gave me opportunity to go out there for 3 months or 6 months. I chose the 6 months. Okay. And that turned into 3 years.
Right. Okay, and then you were involved in the GAP project. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. When I was first out there, I saw a window there for bringing in more volunteers to allow, to bring in more skills, more resources to the mission, because I was one of the first long-term volunteers that were there. So I decided to set up the GAP programme, made up the website, advertising material, and it started from there really. And then they didn't have anybody to run the programme, so they asked me to go back, and then I went back to run the programme for about 2 years.
Now Matthew is a school pal, Matthew Kerridge. You're welcome, Matthew. So your school friends.
Yeah.
And how did you convince then Matthew to get involved in the project?
Every time I came back, I used to come back for about 3 months every year. Yeah. And I used to tell him all the stories, everything that I was getting up to, and I think he just really wanted to go out there to experience it for himself.
Yeah. So obviously you got the bug. Yeah. Had you ever been abroad before?
Yeah, I've travelled to many places around the world, but me and Matthew, as you said, being friends from school, and for a number of years I've wanted to go to Africa, and obviously I do like, a relaxing beach holiday, and there's many places in Africa you can go and relax on a beach, but if I wanted to go to Africa, I wanted a real experience.
Right. Tell me, did you self-finance the project yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, so when many lads would be spending their money on holidays to Ibiza, you decided to go to Kenya and spend your few bob over there, so supporting the kids and teaching, etc.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, I've been on these holidays, and I thought this year came, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Africa. I'm gonna do this volunteering. Matthew and me had spoke for a long time. He told me all about his stories, what I could get involved with, and it seemed like the ideal opportunity. And IcFEM in Kenya seemed like the perfect place in Africa for me. So when I went there, Matthew had helped me out with the programme before I went, and then a lady who's now helping run it in Africa, called Jo, she corresponded via email and sent me a great programme up which consisted of teaching, sports coaching, house building, revamping local businesses, putting water springs in villages where they had no water, etc, etc, etc. So it was a full-on programme for 2 weeks. It gave me an insight into the culture of Kenyan people, appreciation for how lucky we are in this country, because until I'd been there, I'd been to some very nice places, and you don't see how some people live, and to see how enthusiastic they are and the communities come together was so refreshing. One example would be we went to build a house for a family in a village where this lady had 3 children. The husband had left the family. She was living in a tiny mud hut, and it was no way of standing a living, even for that area. Yeah. The community had pulled together, contacted the mission. The mission had said, yes, we will help support this. Brought in the volunteers. There was me and other 4 volunteers there.
So you built a mud house, didn't you?
Yeah. So, but the good thing about it was not just in case the volunteers turned up and do it. When we turned up on day 1, must have got there at 9:30 in the morning. About 30 people from that community were there, coming to support and build this house with us, which we did in 2 days.
And a great experience, isn't it? Everybody comes together, there's singing, there's building, there's all sorts of things. We could learn a lot from working like that here, couldn't we, really?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Particularly in harmony.
Yeah, because like I say, you had the ladies helping, you had the men helping, showing us what to do, because some people, volunteers, never built a house before, even a mud house at that, but never built anything. So everyone working together. In a lot of local communities, I wouldn't imagine that necessarily happens in the UK, etc. And it was just refreshing to see everybody come together and want to help this family.
Matthew, you met your wife out there,
Yeah.
and you brought her home to Brickhouse.
Yeah.
So what's your wife doing now?
She's working over at Bradford.
Okay.
She's trained up to be a nursery nurse. So
Have
something
you
that
any-
she's always wanted
Have you
to
any
do.
plans of going back out to Africa again?
I think once you've gone to Africa, it stays within the blood and you can't get rid of it. It's always there.
Yeah.
And eventually, we would like to go back to Kenya.
Matthew, sum it up in a few seconds what the experience was and what it meant to you.
It's probably the best experience of my life to date. I recommend it to anybody as a life experience. You get to see so much, meet so many great people, and all in all have the experience of a lifetime, that you'll probably get a bug for it, like Matthew said, and want to go back, because I went it for 2.5 weeks. Matthew were 3 years. I'd probably like to go back, if not there, somewhere else in Africa and spend a long period of time.
Okay, Matthew, do you have an email or a website that people can get hold of and learn about the GAP project, etc.?
Yeah, they can visit www.icfem-mission.org.
Okay, that's brilliant. Well, listeners, it's clear that both of you have gained a multitude of experience and certainly knowledge, and you've done extremely well from the projects that you've done. Well done to both of you. It's great to see young people doing so well. Thank you very much indeed for coming on, and the best of luck to you for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and now would you welcome, please, singing a track